Hello. Before we begin, just take a breath, settle into the moment. I want you to really feel into this question. Have you ever noticed you can change your thoughts for a moment? You can say the affirmation. You can tell yourself something new and still feel like the same version of you. Same fear, same heaviness, same insecurity, same reaction. If that's you, stay with me. Because today we're talking about something most people completely miss. You are not only creating your life through what you think. You're creating it through what you feel repeatedly. Hello, and welcome to the Aligned Human Project. I'm your host, Dawn Elgin, contrarian soul guide, founder of Practical Spiritualism, and the co-creator of the field Inform, the 12 laws of co-creation. And here, we don't just talk about awakening, about remembering. We talk about what it actually takes to live it. So let's start here. Thoughts matter. Beliefs matter. Mindset absolutely matters. But emotions are often the fuel, the source that's underneath them. Because your body remembers emotional states. And what is repeated in the body starts to feel like an identity. So if you repeatedly feel stress, fear, rejection, resentment, pressure, you don't just experience those emotions. You begin to become someone organized around them. Some people aren't living even their personality. They're actually living a practiced emotional state. You think it's who you are, but it may actually be what you've rehearsed. I'll give you an example. We often will attach stories to our memories. They help us explain or justify where we are the way we are. I grew up, and going into my early adult years, I experienced a lot of rejection. So I've had a lot of feelings of unworthiness, of longing, of wishing that things were different. So it didn't matter how much I practiced, that I was worthy and did these affirmations. It helped the way that I was thinking about myself, but the feeling underneath it wasn't being changed. And so I still had these old emotions of hurt, of resentment, of rejection, of betrayal, of abandonment, and I held on to them. And they were still living in my body. Not only on the energetic level, we even know there's a book called Molecules of Emotions that explains how neuropeptides are released into our body and stored in our cells until we release the emotion. So every time we resist, every time we cling to a story and we feel it over and over and over again, the neuropeptides linked to those emotions are literally existing still in our cells. Then I'm actually looking at the world and I'm measuring it or I'm perceiving it through the lens of those past experiences. So even if I'm working to change my mindset, to be a better version of myself, unless I take a look at what I'm feeling and start to first acknowledge it, become aware of it, and then make a conscious choice to shift it, I will continue to live with those levels of insecurity within me, and no amount of me saying I am confident is going to fully change it, because I'm going to end up with a dichotomy. What I'm thinking and what I'm feeling are not matching. Repeated feelings become familiar identities. Now, this is where science really helps us. Because neuroscience shows us that repeated emotional experiences strengthen the neural pathways. Psychology shows that emotional learning often happens early and deeply. The nervous system becomes conditioned to states we live in often, which means if you regularly live in stress, in fear, your system gets better at those emotions. If you regularly live in resentment, your system gets faster at resentment. If you regularly live in self-doubt, that state starts to feel normal, not because it's true, but because it's practiced. This is where many traditions point to what some call the pain body. The pain body is stored emotional residue of the past, old hurt, old fear, old grief, old shame. And when life touches something unresolved, the pain body activates. Suddenly, the reaction feels bigger than the moment. Why? Because you're not only feeling now, you're feeling the layers and reliving the past. Have you ever overreacted and knew it? Have you ever felt younger than your age in a moment? That may be old emotional material surfacing. Your reaction may be current, but the charge is historical. So where does power live? This is everything. You are not your thoughts, and you are not your feelings. You are the one that is aware of them, the witness, the superconsciousness self, the most expanded self, divine spark. The feeling can move through you without becoming you, but most people were never taught that. They feel something and immediately become it. I feel fear, so I am unsafe. I feel rejection, so I'm not enough. I feel anger, so I must attack. That identification creates the next layer of suffering. The shift is not to suppress the emotion, and it's not to drown in the emotion. It's to feel it fully without becoming unconsciously organized around the feeling, to witness it, to regulate it, to choose from something far deeper. How we speak about ourselves absolutely matters. Saying things such as, I feel anger versus I am angry. They're different. Even if you play with it right now, when we say things like, I am angry, it is an identification, even if it's only for a moment. But if you repeat it long enough, we move from an experience to a mood, to a personality, to your life. So we want to shift that language to language such as I'm experiencing or I feel. Those are experiences. They're not identities. That is where your power lives when we don't identify with a passing experience. Energy is always in flow. Fluxes, it rises, it falls. It's not who you are. You are the one, the eternal one that is always experiencing it. Even feel the difference between I feel fear versus I need to obey fear. See, often when we have these moments, we've got panic or we've got fear, and we start acting from that moment. We're reacting to the experience versus responding to truth. We don't think to pause and look around and go, is there a reason for me to be feeling or experiencing this fear right now? No, I'm okay. I'm safe. It might have been a random face in the crowd, might have been the way that a shadow fell across. And the old amygdala, the old emotions or experiences that we've had, they come in, they light up. Have you ever met somebody who has a fear of snakes and they're walking down the street and there's a hose in the grass and they jump long before they ever stop to think, what is that? That is pre-consciousness. 1/10 of a second. Boom, it's activated and it goes. And so that fear comes up, but it's just a hose. And so when we say things or word or language these things more as this is an experience or a feeling, then we don't get pulled into the drama of that moment. The trick here is that naming the feeling begins to create some space. And that's what we're looking for. Because in that space is the pause, is a moment where we can react or we can respond. So we want to create as much space as we can. For example, I can notice anxiety in my body. I can experience anxiousness. And I can choose to not let anxiety make my decisions. The key here, feelings are signals, but they're not identities. So let me ask you this. What emotion have you practiced so often it started to feel like your personality? And what changes if that emotion is not who you are? There's an ancient truth many traditions understood long before neuroscience had language. Prayer was never about words. There's a quote, and it goes, "Silence is the language of God, and everything else is a cheap imitation." Now, if that word God doesn't resonate, insert your own word that embodies oneness. Prayer or communion was about state. It was about a feeling, because your body responds to feeling more than it does to language. And when you intentionally generate states such as gratitude, compassion, appreciation, love, joy, you are no longer emotionally rehearsing the past. You're teaching your system a new field. This is why practices like heart coherence, breathing, and meditation work. When the heart, breath, and nervous system come into harmony, into coherence, you become more available to clarity, healing, creativity, aligned action. Not because it's magic, because coherence changes how you relate to life, how you perceive life in this moment. We have to take radical self-responsibility. And part of that is by creating the experience that we want. And so doing things like heart coherence meditation is an opportunity to actively choose the type of emotion we want to feel. So often people are repeating their fears while they're asking for peace. They are allowing themselves to loop into old programs, and they allow those words to run on auto, to loop over and over again inside their heads. It is your responsibility to become aware of your thoughts. It's your responsibility. That's how you take care of you. We need to become aware of them. This is why I talk so much about doing the practice of brain dumping, where we become aware of what is the thought that's running in my head and what is the feeling I have in my body. And we want to be able to write that down, because emotions and thoughts, they want to be seen and heard just like the rest of us. And so by writing something down, I'm feeling insecure. I'm not feeling like I'm worthy of this. What if people laugh at me? And we write the emotion, we create the space. But more importantly, a lot of people say to me, "Oh, but it's in my head, Dawn. I just think it through." And I'm like, no, you don't. Welcome to the experience of PTSD, where the brain, the mind, and the nervous system loop over and over and over again, trying to find a different result. But they're all trained from the past. Only conscious thought can change this when we make conscious choice. So by writing something down, taking a moment to look at it, we're creating that space, not only the pause, but we're literally creating space from the thought and ourself. Saying affirmations while we're feeling lack. I hit on this already. There are studies out there on affirmations, and over 50% of people feel more depressed after repeating affirmations than they did before. Why? Because it feels like they're lying to themselves. Affirmations work when we're making it a choice. I choose to be more confident. I choose to practice patience. But if I'm impatient and I keep saying I am patient, I have a dichotomy. And so this is why often just saying affirmations creates lack. The affirmation matters just like your thoughts matter, but it has to be your choice, not something that you're just waiting to happen to you. We think of how often we get all these videos and talks and meditations on cultivating abundance. But if I have feelings and experiences of lack, of unworthiness, of insecurity, of fear, of scarcity, I can say all the words I want about abundance. And again, I'm going to have a dichotomy. I might finally start to create some abundance. Maybe I win a scratch and win for $1,000, and then my hot water tank breaks and it costs me $1,005. This is why these things happen. Because if we don't change our state of beingness, then we have an incongruency and we need to create a different way of being. So we practice, we mentally rehearse. What would this emotion feel like? If we were doing a practice together, it might look like bringing in the choice. I choose to be more patient. And then we'd say, okay, well, what does patience feel like in your body? When you're feeling patient, what does that feel like? What are the muscles in your face like? What are your eyes like? What's your body language? What does it feel like to be patient? Well, you'd be able to breathe. You'd be expansive. Your eyes would be softer. Your lips wouldn't be pursed. There maybe be a soft smile on your face. You'd be calm. Patience. So we practice those moments. So when we get into real life, we have access to that frequency because we've chosen to make that a part of who we are. And this is how we make prayer an embodiment. It's not a performance. It's not about the words you're saying. It's about how you feel in your body. Your life responds less to what you say and more to the state you sustain. So let's make this real. Just take a pause, breathe in, shake it out, and just feel what's present in your body right now. Not the story, just the sensation. And now name it gently. Is it tightness, sadness, pressure, fear, restlessness? And now ask, what happens if this feeling is here, but it's not me? Just take a breath. And then ask, what would I choose if I was not identified with this feeling? Listen. Now bring to mind one thing you genuinely appreciate. Let yourself feel it, not think it. Feel it. Feel it in your heart. Feel it in your body. Maybe someone you love. Maybe your breath. Maybe this moment. Now notice what changes in your body. That shift matters. That is conscious creation. Many people are speaking new words while feeling old emotions. But change happens when your inner state matches what you say you want. When you cultivate gratitude, compassion, love, joy, appreciation, you generate a different field. And when the field changes, the form follows. And if this resonates, this is the work we do inside Align Your Life, inside the Aligned Human Project, and inside Alignment Operating System. Learning how to feel without drowning, lead without reacting, and create from truth instead of old emotional memory. If you're here to build a life that doesn't cost you your nervous system, to lead, love, and create from alignment instead of exhaustion, you're in the right place. This is Practical Spiritualism. This is the Aligned Human Project. And this is where we stop reacting to life and start creating it. Alignment isn't something you achieve. It's something you practice. So keep pausing, keep feeling, and keep choosing. You are the witness. You shape the field, and the field shapes your life.